This is Real Race Talk from Texas. It's the Revved Up Sports Show. Here's Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez.
Hello, everybody. It is hashtag Real Race Talk from Texas, the Revved Up Sports Show. Getting set to go on another Monday. Chillier Monday in Texas. Let's straighten the old man here. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee next to me, Rodney Rodriguez. After a busy weekend in Edna, lots of hurt feelings, lots of excitement. We're going to talk to Colin Hodges at 7 o'clock, and he will talk about winning that big clash at Texana, and then we will talk to Johnny Torres coming up there shortly after. Johnny Torres going to be a busy man, isn't he?
He's definitely going to be a busy man, and you heard it here first about 6 months ago when he mentioned the breaking news about whatever his new duties were going to be at I-37. But yeah, he's got a lot of stuff happening, and I'm looking forward to talking to Johnny. Johnny's always a good guy, and be nice to have him on the show to sit there and talk about all of his new duties down at I-37. He got promoted as Director of Speedway Operations. That sounds big. That sounds like a huge title. So
that sounds like a pain in the ass is what that sounds like to me. But he's a good guy for it. I mean, he has the drive. He's been around this sport forever. I mean, Frank did it. So I mean, the falls right in line right there, and I know he'll do a really good job. I know he will do a great job because the guy is very driven, and that's a guy that. So many of the promoters that we see in the sport, their drive is to keep the sport alive, and I think the good thing with Johnny taking that on is, I don't know if he's going to be promoter or whatever it's going to be, but Johnny's a young guy. I think that definitely helps, which hopefully means he's going to be in it for the long run, unless he burns himself out, which could happen. Who knows? That
happens really quickly about burning yourself out involved in racing. So. Speaking of a guy that's not burnt out, he's already joined the show. What a great show Owen put on the other day. It was nice to see him only having to wear just a couple of hats with you down there helping him out and announcing. So that was a damn good show, damn entertaining show, and that's a great little racetrack down there at Texana Raceway Park. If you hadn't been, don't forget it's not that far. It's really not that far away from you, regardless of where you live, whether you're from Austin or San Antonio or even Corpus Christi. You're looking at less than 2 hours from almost everywhere. So it's a great little racetrack. Houston, it's a little more than 2 hours to get to Houston, but
yeah, that's a good spot to go watch racing right there, because when you think of short tracks, and if you grew up at short tracks like many of us did, I mean, you go back there, and that's really, it feels very homey. I mean, it feels very homey, and I think the simple fact of it, Bobby, is that you seriously are, that you're out. You're not like when we would go to Kyle, or when you go to Houston, and like on the asphalt side, you're driving through all of this, all this metropolitan stuff. I mean, I know for me, when I leave Round Rock and go to Edna, I get to Lockhart, then it's Luling, Gonzales, and I mean, then you cut across there, you get to Yorktown, and then you get to Edna, and it just feels comfortable, and I think that's a big part of it for me. But it was a great show, and good racing, and a very timely show. I think on Saturday night, I mean, they did a hell of a job getting that show in. That was a lot of racing to get done.
Has a lot of cars too. That was a lot of. It was a good positive show. It was a good way to end the season. Lots of really good stuff in terms of the racing and the decent crowd for all things considered during a pandemic. So that was good to see. And this all in all is a good race for the most part. We'll get in with Colin Holland. A little rough around the edges, I think, and a little bit of the factory stock race, so to speak. But all in all, I think it was as good a show as could be expected.
Yeah, when you pull in 75 of those bad boys, and then you've got 40 limited modifieds, and you get 28 modifieds. I mean, that's seems like unheard of sometimes these days, but that's a really good number there, and for everybody to show up, and the racing was tremendous, and it was a very efficient show. I mean, it was a very good night. Thank you, Owen. As always, I appreciate the opportunity, man. Anytime that I'm free, I'm happy to go give you a hand there. And our friend Sexy Joyce Shepard checks in, and boy, woo, that one there.
Yeah. The key, Joyce, the key did work when I got home because I didn't do anything crazy in Edna, so the key did work when I got home.
Joyce, I tell you, Joyce was on her best behavior on Saturday night when
she was on the A game, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. That's Joyce the way we like her. And like I said, race folks, racetrack operators. When Joyce Shepard shows up at your track, you're doing something right. And when, like I said, you keep her off that Facebooks. Because sometimes she calls it like it is. So that's but that's what the sport is. I mean, that's really what the sport is. It's people like Joyce Shepard that make this thing real.
Yeah, no, she did, and she brought some friends, and it was a good time, and no doubt, it was a good solid night there. I think for the people that went to Edna for the first time, they won't be disappointed in the racing action and the facility. I partook in some of the food for racetrack food. Is actually really good.
That place has got a really good kitchen.
Yeah, it's good. I had the best part about it, they had the deal, right? A real simple deal. It was a hamburger, fries, and a drink for like $8.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You can't beat that. Not in a racetrack.
Nothing wrong with that. That's some good stuff. So congratulations there. I think one of the topics before, like we said, Colin Hodges at 7. Then we're going to talk at 7:30. We will talk to Johnny Torres. But I think one of the things that I'm seeing that's really trending is I saw our man Stevie Whitaker posted something, and just what a beautiful race car that he had there the other night, and a really, really good run, especially since he's in a crate. It's something that I mentioned. I mentioned it on the race on. I mentioned it on the mic. I'm sure the folks there probably couldn't hear me, but the guy's out there, and he's running around with a crate motor with the guys in the open motor, and he did a hell of a job. And rough it was. And I think that's what you see though when you get into those steel bodied classes, you're going to get some rough stuff happening.
It was definitely had a few more rough moments of what I think anybody will really want to attest to it. But there was lots of hard. I think there's a difference between hard racing and bumping and banging racing, right? Hard racing is just kind of sort of bouncing off each other. It's not using your car up going into 1 and 2 to help your car turn underneath the other guy by just slamming it and making it turn. There's always, especially a dirt track racing, there's always going to be a little bit of beating and banging that goes along with it.
Sure.
But that's the nature of that beast, right? But in terms of some of the extracurricular stuff we saw, even up from the front, that was a little, in some instances, was a little bit too much even for me.
Well, and when you get into a race like this where you're running for bigger money, you're into the big money races. That's where you're going to see that stuff. And I mean, the one thing that I will say is, I do see a lot of folks that frown on the asphalt. They frown on the asphalt for the beating and the banging and wrecking and causing yellows. I mean, that's really what we were getting into. I mean, that
had a lot of that.
Yeah, that essentially turned into that. But I can tell you one thing: that the racetrack did a hell of a job with making it efficient. It was still efficient as everything was happening, and I like the calls. I mean, maybe there were some calls that were wrong. It's not for me to say. I haven't actually gone back, and the only angles that I see is what I'm talking about. But maybe something was missed. I don't know, but I think the manner that the race was officiated kept it efficient, and you can't ask for any more than that.
No, I mean, you can. I mean, I don't think there was a lot of people trying to fight. I think there was one little incident up in the big parking lot. And kudos to I-37. Kudos to Texana and Owen, because when you have to put all those big rigs in the spectator parking lot because you're running out of spots in the pits, that is pretty damn impressive. And it was. I'm glad that, like you said, I got there a little early to get a nice parking spot in the stands, or for the stands, but. Before we get started, before we get too deep in the show, Rodney, I thought I'd talk to you about this before we went on. It's a good time to be thankful for them. We're thankful for all of our listeners and our fans that we have, but we're asking for a little bit of help. We're trying to get past the Facebook 2,000 here. We got just a tick above 1,900 likes on Facebook, and so we need you guys' help to help spread the word of this wonderful show and try to spread the more times you share the stream for the show each week and share the page. It helps make Facebook like us a little bit better and helps us expand the audience even more. So if you have friends that like this show, or some friends that aren't part of it, go ahead and try to share it with us. Help us out and share it as much as you can so we can so that we can get it going and get it rocking and rolling to make the show even better for you guys. The bigger, what we found is the bigger Facebook print we have, footprint, yes.
Yeah.
The bigger footprint we have on Facebook is that the more that the advertisers look at that nowadays. So we need everybody's help to try to expand out the footprint a little bit more. But we love everybody that's already been a friend and a follower. So we look forward to another years and years of this show.
And you can go to the YouTube as well and type in Revved Up Sports Show. There's a page there as well, and that's where you get maybe a little bit of bonus content, different things that you may find there. After the fact, you're always live here, and you're always live on YouTube, and you're always live at RevvedUpSportsShow.com, RealRaceTalk.com. You're live on Twitch. So there's a lot of places, but yeah, absolutely. Let's push that threshold there and get it up to 2,000. But so that. And I think this is part of what we're seeing with the factory stocks. Quickly back to the the contact and everything that we're seeing there. This is a byproduct of where you get one thing. Big money races is what we saw this weekend on Saturday. That was one reason for it. But what you see here is you get aggressive drivers. I mean, because we've seen so many that have made the move, whether it be from a limited modified or from a modified, and they come to this class because of the reasons that we're talking about. You go race them wherever for bigger money, and they're more affordable. But I mean, you see aggressive racers, you see them come in, and the maintenance part is a little bit easier. And this is a growing pain part for the factory stocks that during the off season, whether it be USRA or the individual tracks, they're going to have to figure this part out, because this happens in every class. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember when we were street stock and super stock on pavement, we had so many of them, and everything was happening. It got to the point where your shit was getting tore up every week somehow, and that's where the factory stocks are right now.
Well, I mean, it's a growing pain that you have to have, right? We've been talking about the influx of cars and the cars. Your front runners are getting faster. I mean, these guys that are winning these big races. You had big money Neil Kemp that was running this weekend after winning the King of the Hill. That is a way for him to. I was happy to see him, but his stuff got tore up pretty good.
Yep.
And so I think it's. I think when you get the guys, we didn't get to go to the King of the Hill, but we don't know how much stuff they tore up at the King of the Hill. But didn't see and hear as many people on social media complaining about the rough driving and stuff at the King of the Hill. So we'll, I think it's just the end of the year shows are always pretty aggressive as it is, anyways, because you got your last shot to try to come in and get your marks, get your payback, so to speak. You and I have both done it.
Yeah.
When you have that last show of the year, everybody that did you wrong that entire year, you remember it, and you come through and you just want to settle that score. And some people try to settle scores a little bit more aggressively than others. So
great post on the Facebook feed, and it's Tim Homeyer. This is a dude that would know. Because this is one of the best factory stock guys around. I mean, this guy can wheel it and gets it done. He says when you have a level playing field and that many cars, along with that kind of money, it's going to get tough. So especially on a smaller track like Edna, and that's a great point right there, where you're going to have guys leaning on each other. I mean. The thing about it is it's hard, when you pack 24 in for a main event, or I mean those B mains and C mains. I mean there were so many cars in there. I mean when you fly those things off in there, I mean it's hard to stay off of each other. I mean it's hard to stay off of each other. But that's where you have to figure out. You draw the fine line between, because there's always going to be incidental contact. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be that. I don't care what kind of racing it is. You're going to touch each other, but the fine line between intentional contact and then the just the plowing, and that's when it becomes a problem, when you see that. And that's when, I mean, it takes the fun out of everything. That's when you get the emotions involved, and the stuff spews over into the pits, and that's what you don't want to have. You don't want to have that stuff right there.
Yeah, but I mean, all in all, it was still a good race. I mean, you expect carnage in a big money race like that, when you have that many cars that are that close together. I mean, your top 10 were running pretty much nose to tail, side to side all night long. I mean, a lot had to do with some of the extra cautions, but yeah. But I mean, all in all, I mean, I thought the track did good. I thought that there was enough racing grooves to have good side by side racing. I know there for a while on the front stretch they were going 3 and 4 wide, but the track can't prepare for everything. I mean, obviously you have it the way it works.
And Owen's jumping in. He says that the track owns a huge part of the problem. If you had 3 wide multi grooves, but again, I mean this is a different scenario here, where you're at the mercy of what I'm really growing to appreciate from dirt track racing, and what I really loved the other night was that that track was so good. That was a damn good. We went and looked at it afterwards, and I mean, like I said it on the broadcast and in the stands. I didn't see any dust. I didn't see. I mean, I'm sure there were ruts somewhere, but I mean, I didn't see cars digging in and bouncing around and doing all of this stuff. But I mean, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. I mean, you're sitting there and this thing changes throughout the night. And I think all in all, I wasn't on the track, but from what I saw, this seemed to be a really competitive, fast racetrack. And I think I think Owen and the guys, I think that they did a tremendous job with track prep.
Yeah, I mean, they did their best to get that third groove, that super high lane, trying to get it in there so that you didn't have a bunch of the bottom feeders, right? With all the rubber and stuff being laid down on the bottom of the track all night long, you could see them trying to make that higher groove work. And it was still a bottom-heavy racetrack in terms of where everybody wanted to run, but all in all, I mean, I don't think it was one of those where you had the bottom feeders, but it wasn't detrimental to the show type of bottom feeders where everybody was going down there.
Yeah, and what I really appreciated, because what we really saw in the sport mod race and in the modified race was, the leader took off. Ray Allen Koholnik took off, and our man Chris Morris took off, and I mean they were gone, but the action behind them, that was tremendous, and the way that these guys. I mean, we talk about when you start getting into the lappers, and I hate to call them lappers because if you make the field, especially at an event like this, and you're not on the lead lap, I mean, you have essentially won the battle because you made the show. But when they got into traffic to watch these guys get in there and maneuver, and the cars that were not on the lead lap did a really good job. And again, this was because the race was being patrolled extremely well. That was the impressive part that you didn't have. What I didn't want to happen was any of those three races to end on something where maybe one of the cars not on the lead lap caused, factored into the finish. And that was not a problem.
No, not at all. I know there was a little bit of question at the start. I guess it was was it the limited mod main? Where the guy took off right before the start of the race.
Yeah.
After having problems, I think it was the limit. I think it was a limited mod.
Yeah.
But he, there for a while, he stayed up out of traffic. But I think after he finally got past, he ended up yielding to the rest of the leaders. But all in all, I think that the battle for second and third in the limited mod and the IMCA modified race was considerably good.
Absolutely.
The leaders, Chris Morris and Ray Allen, took off pretty damn efficiently and didn't look back.
Yeah, and we're starting to see in there. I mean, the 6-inch Daniel Preston fourth with a crate motor, and I mean Preston did a good job. He was mired back there a little bit, and that's the thing. We'll talk to Hodges here in just a little bit. I said it to the crowd and to the Speed Pass folks. It's like at one point, and again, the question is going to come up of these guys were leaning on each other, absolutely. But at one point, I said whoever's in third and fourth right now may be the ones that are going to be in the best position when this thing all shakes out, because it did. It got rough at the end, and that's. I mean, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by that at all. And honestly, in a race like this, that's what you want. I mean, that's what you want, because that crowd was going crazy as this stuff was happening.
Well, you got to have a little bit of beating and banging. Nobody likes to go to a race and not see any carnage. You go. A lot of people go. Even your seasoned race fans. You got to see a little bit of beat up sheet metal. You got to get a little bit of wrinkled fenders and stuff like that, because that's always been the way that you tell the racing was great. The racing was really good because they had a little, some ruffled feathers and some bent fenders. Mm-hmm. That is one of the reasons why you got to have a little bit of carnage in each race. Now you don't want it because as a car owner you don't want it, right? You don't want to see it as a car owner. You don't want to see it as a competitor. But I think it's the nature of the beast. You get people that are in tuned and are used to having that type of race experience, that you got to have a little bit of it just to be able to have part of to fulfill that need for the people that want to see the carnage.
Yeah, and it's I mean there's like we keep saying. I mean there's good carnage and there's bad carnage, and we racers, we learn how to make things look unintentional even when they're intentional. And I mean there really is a science to that. I mean it's one thing you can turn people, you can wreck people, but there's different ways to do it. Where I mean there's times when I've been racing where I would do something that was I mean I ain't racing right now, so I'll say it was purely intentional, but it would happen in a manner to where it didn't look intentional. And, at some point I would tell the other driver involved that, maybe that was something went wrong. And that's where we hear that all the time. I ran out of brakes or whatever the case may be. But, I mean, these drivers are good. And there's ways to do that.
There is. I mean, there's ways to make it look calculated. And it looks like we got James Williams on the Facebook feed. He brings up a point about hitting somebody square. It's one thing to hit somebody dead square in the ass end of that car versus trying to right rear him or left rear him.
Right.
If you right rear somebody, that's gonna piss somebody off.
Yep.
And that's going to cause an issue when you right rear somebody, and that's going to not necessarily just the regular people, but also just the general people that race fans. And the guy, like I said, the guy you right rear, put him into the fence, he's going to be the first one out of that car coming to whoop your ass.
Well, and the thing about it is, when you go in, I mean, when you're in the middle of the corner and you go up and you square somebody up and you punt them and you run right into them, I mean that's not cool. I mean, when you slip in, I mean, like we see on asphalt all the time. Well, not all the time, but we see it a lot on asphalt where you get guys diving in and somebody's down on the inside, and whether it be, the bottom car comes up or the top car comes down. But a lot of times what you see on asphalt is you've got a guy that's diamonding going straight up to the wall down the straightaway, and then he crashes down right on top of you. And so there's different ways that you look at that. But good competitive racing is totally fine. But intentional, it does sour it a little bit. But I can tell you what, the entertainment value that I saw in that factory stock race on Saturday night, man, that was, I would have enjoyed watching that on Race On. But like I said, like I told the Speed Pass people, it may look great there, but being here in person, it's even better.
Yeah, I mean it was a great race, especially when that 66 car got his fenders standing up on its end. That was an interesting look there. I'm surprised that some of that stuff stayed on as well as it did. That's when you got a good, you got to thank your body man, the person that installed the body, to keep on some of the panels like that.
Mm-hmm. So that's the thing about it. It gets rough out there, and you had hurt feelings, and guys are irritated with each other. And when it's all said and done, I mean, you got Colin Hodges that figures out a way to stay out of it. And yeah, I mean, maybe he got mixed up in some stuff, and we'll talk with him. Obviously, everybody heard the interview after the races, and that's a lot of emotion right there. I mean, the guy is the champion there at that racetrack, and he defends his home turf, and he claimed it. But I mean, he's excited, maybe upset with some of the stuff that's going on there. But if you're a fan and you sit there and listen to that, I mean, when he said what he said, I'm sure tonight, I don't know if he'll be more subdued tonight or not, but he when he said what he said, there was some people pretty fired up in the grandstands.
There really was a lot of people fired up in the grandstands about that. So we'll see after you have a couple of days to let everything kind of sit in. We'll check the pulse and check to see how he still feels about that. I imagine he's probably still going to feel the same way. May deliver it in a little different manner this time now that he's had a chance to think about it. So,
hey, quickly got to mention before we dive in here with Hodges in just a little bit. So we saw the South Carolina 400 at Florence Motor Speedway over the weekend over on the asphalt side, and we saw I saw Bobby Labonte show up there. You see Bobby, he was in a modified, and he sets fast time, sets a track record at Florence, 16.826, and he winds up fourth in that modified race as he runs behind Lofton, Ward, and Burt Myers, and Jeff Fultz right behind him. Burt Myers of fame from the show
Madhouse.
from Madhouse.
Yep.
So yeah, good feel there. Meanwhile, late model stock cars, a lot of folks were surprised that Ty Majeski won his first late model stock car race. I'm like, why are you people surprised? Why is that surprising?
Yeah. Well, he's had so much success in super late models, and you hear the difference between the late model stocks and the supers. So, but either way, it takes a Willman to do it. To Ty, he's always going to be one of the top guys. I'm assuming he's going to the Derby.
Yeah, I believe he is. I believe he is on that list. Josh Berry second, Sam Yarborough, Lee Pulliam, and Nathan Pope. That is your top five at South Carolina on the South Carolina 400. But all of the emphasis right here, as this is a Texas show that has gone nationwide, is still what we saw there at Texana. And remember, we've still got South Texas Speedway coming up, and as we said a couple of shows we've talked about it, Steve Whitaker was out on the track, and he will continue to be in charge of operations there at South Texas. So now you have Johnny T in Pleasanton, and then you'll have Whitaker and Owen pretty damn good little trifecta there for South Texas.
Yeah, it's a really good group of guys that all have a passion for racing and all love racing and have all been really competitive and have really competitive shows and put a lot of stuff together. So
yeah, and that's you get guys that have been on the track, and I mean that a lot of times that's your good race operators when they get out there. These are the guys that know what happens on the track, and they see things maybe a little bit differently than an outsider would that hasn't done it, that hasn't been down in the trenches, as I like to call it. But pretty good little pack of guys there, and we are still working. Speaking of all of those folks, we are still working on Promoter of the Year. I know we had talked about doing that at the first part of November, but then we had Gary Ballou coming on. We had to push it back, but that committee, and I crap you not, that committee is seriously going back and forth and back and forth. And I don't even know if they've come to I think they've got some finalists nailed down, but they're still continuing to work with that. So whenever that happens, we'll go with Phil Whipple and Chris David over at Race on Texas, and we'll let you know who it is.
Yeah, when we know, you'll know. And it looks like it is a heated battle from everything that I'm hearing about the discussions about who, and heated in a good way, not so much in a bad way. I mean, it's the same kind of committee type of thing where you can see something one way and think about it in one aspect. Then you hear somebody else's opinion and aspect, and it totally changes the way that you think and kind of changes your idea. And then you go back to thinking about something else, and then that changes it before. So it's kind of like, it really is just surprising to see how long it's taking. But I'm also respectful to the fact that it's taking a long time because there's such a unique challenge to being named Promoter of the Year.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing about it, is that you actually that it becomes a discussion, that it becomes a matter of talking with different with different people. And it'd be one thing if it was a slam dunk. If it was a slam dunk, that would make it maybe a little boring there if you just had one unanimous winner. But that is not the case, and there's great candidates too. And I mean, and this is not meant at all. The concept when it was thrown at me, it was not thrown together to be something to where it was a competition. It is a competition, but it's more of a recognition thing, and that's when you have formidable opponents. That's always a very good thing. Mm-hmm. That is always a very good thing, and that really seems to be what we're seeing right now.
No, I mean it's a good thing when you have more than one person. If it's not an overwhelming vote in terms of having one landslide vote, especially this year. Yeah, we knew everything was going to be tough in terms of having to be able to. That's why I'm glad that I'm not actually on the committee, because to be on that committee would be a very challenging aspect of trying to get stuff voted for and against. But plus we work with a lot of different promoters, both having them on the show and having them having them on, working with them through some of the announcing and stuff that we do. So we didn't want to be able to have the committee swayed one way or the other. But the committee guys that are there, they know their stuff, and they are definitely they do totally understand the ins and outs, both on the racetrack as a racer and both in the eyes of the promoter too.
Yeah, and once that is all done, we'll actually, if the committee wants to. If the committee wants to be, identified, we'll let them decide that and let you know who all that was. But I mean, I've talked to several folks, and I mean, I don't think there's going to be hurt feelings or anything like that about, such and such promoter doesn't get it. I mean, it's again, it's an appreciation thing and it's a recognition thing, and that's really that's what we're doing. And it's going to be a deal where we're going to recognize one, but it's going to be a matter of recognizing several, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense in terms of just it's such a 2020 has been such a crazy year for everybody, right? Just the tracks that were staying open and being able to race again. You go back and listen to the archives. Hell, there was a chance when we didn't really think we'd ever have any kind of racing in 2020, and lo and behold, here we are towards the end of the season and actually just enjoying the races. Yeah. Just we've had a chance to really appreciate it. And I think a lot of people have too. As we said, nobody's taking racing for granted anymore.
Yeah.
And so right. I think that when you're having these big shows at the end, I think that's what makes it such a challenge to end up being on another level, I think is another way to look at it. And hopefully, as just because somebody's not named Promoter of the Year, hopefully that's not a detrimental to somebody that is a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that right for this particular year under these circumstances, somebody got named promoter of the year. But
Yeah.
It's a work in progress, and we'll let everybody know as soon as we know.
Yep, we keep dealing with it, and we'll figure out how that is, and we'll recognize them and appreciate all of them. But we will have one. All right, let's go to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline. We've been talking about all the excitement that we saw this past weekend there at Texana Raceway Park. When it's all said and done, there is one dude in the factory stocks that is going to be the class winner. That was the class winner. Took home the big check, and in a very memorable race, it is Colin Hodges, the driver, car number 28. Colin, how you doing, my man?
All good, Rodney. Appreciate y'all letting me get on here and talk to y'all.
So, have you come off that high, man? That you were so fired up, man. That was exciting to see.
Yeah, I've come off of it a little bit, but I'm still excited about the win for sure. Some of the stuff I said, you're in the heat of the moment for sure.
That's what I told people. I'm like, calm the hell down. Just calm the hell down.
Yep, for sure.
So, Colin, we'll talk about the class you're upcoming, but for the people that don't know your backstory, tell us a little bit how you got started in racing and how you ended up getting to where you are right now.
Well, I started racing when I was 12 years old, four-cylinder class at Lufkin, Texas at Speedorama.
Nice.
Raced that class for a couple years and then moved up. I had an opportunity to sell my car and moved up to street stock class and had an opportunity with my engine builder at the time. He had a race truck, and he's like, well, if you can reach the pedals and we'll start you at the back and get you some seat time, and we'll go from there. And that's how it all started on that. And he just took me up under his wing and showed me the ropes.
Man, that's awesome. And I mean, that's really what it's all about. Don't you think, Colin? I mean, you get started early and you figure out what you like, and you just keep going. I mean, you just keep going and don't stop.
Yes, sir. It sure is. But I wouldn't have known him if it wasn't for my dad and my brother. They raced before me, so it's just basically like family tradition.
Yep.
And full on, when I have my own kids of my own, pass it down to them. I love racing, and a lot of people do. I just wish, times have changed kind of, and a lot of people that I've known has got out of it. Wish they still done it, but they got to do what they got to do.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So talk about the allure of the factory stocks. We've been seeing just an influx of these guys and these cars pop out of the woodwork, and obviously with 75 cars there in Edna over the last course of the last couple of days down there. I mean, what is it about the factory stocks? Is some people call them an entry-level class, and then other times we hear guys spending $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 on a car. I mean, that's a lot of money for an entry-level class, but what is it about the factory stocks as a whole that you think is making them so popular right now?
Well, to me, because I race limiteds since 2008, full time every year, and I've had more fun in the factory stock class this year than I've had a long, long time. To me, it's just mainly a competition. You guys do have good drivers out there, and it's a hard class because they are taking these cars pretty hard, and it's almost like they got a restrictor plate kind of. It's like at Daytona or something like that. They're all really close, so shows like really good racing side by side. Like at Boot Hill.
Yeah.
If you would look at their lap times and stuff like that, in the time trials, they're like, not even, they're like thousandths between the people. So that's what puts on a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Colin, I think a lot of the allure, I know for me, because I've been around this shit for so long, I think for me, I mean, those cars they look like race cars, and they sound like stock cars. And, man, you guys are fast. You guys are so fast. I think it's the perfect class.
Yes, sir, it is. I love the class. I wouldn't even had the opportunity to run the class if it wouldn't have been for my brother. He had talked to a guy that we knew from a long time that had a car, and he said, okay, you can drive it, and he liked the way I done, so he's like, you're gonna drive it full time next year. And it started from there. And I didn't think I would actually like the class, being in limiteds and street stocks for so long, but I actually love it a lot.
That's awesome. I love that.
So talk about the transition. We usually talk to guys that talk about moving from the factory stocks up into a limited, or moving all the way up to a big mod in the IMCA modifieds. How does your driving style have to change when you go from racing a limited for so long as you did to now that you've been running in the factory stocks?
Oh, you have to change it a lot. To me, it wasn't as big of a learning curve as some people, because I watched it with my father, because when limiteds first come out, he got one, and he didn't win a race for a whole season. But he was a good stock car racer, and he was, just by him telling me things and stuff like that, when it was my time to come to race and stuff, I kind of put that into my driving style, and it seemed like I could adapt to it a little better. The main reason is the weight difference, I think. Tell you the truth, by watching them, and before I even started driving them, I was like, how in the world do they hook up with slick tires on a tacky or wet track like they do? Because my limited, I spin more than they do. So how in the world are they doing it? And then when I drive one, I still don't understand it, but they do hook up. But I think it's just because they're like 1,000 pounds more.
Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, on that big old slick, that is a great point. And one of the things, Colin, that I always talk about, I was talking about it earlier with the factory stocks. I mean, I read the rules. And I mean, I love those rules. I mean, that is and I mean, I know that you can get a really good car built, and you have to pay to get a car built, whatever the case may be. But with that, the engine package and everything that's in place there, and the rear end, carburetor, I mean, all of that, I mean, it really reels it back and makes it a hell of a lot more economical than anything else we've seen in a while.
Yes, sir, it does, for sure. I mean, you do still have, the people that can go out there and get a little bit of extra stuff and stuff like that. But, I mean, more than anything, I mean, it ain't all really about motor. Mm-hmm. To me, it's more about setup. And if the shocks, since I've been racing, shocks have been changing every year.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why we've got so fast, and all that is just because of the technology and just shocks.
Agree. Totally agree.
Well, with technology comes money, and shocks are kind of expensive. Did you ever think that shocks would end up being as expensive as they are for as long as you've been racing?
No, I did not, because I remember when QA1s first come out, I bought the package set at Day Motorsports for my limited. It was like 6 shocks for I can't remember. I think they was like $50 a shot or something like that. And then now they're $150 a shot. My gosh, dang.
So Colin, let's talk about that. So in the limited, we keep talking about the limited days, and we will get to the class here at some point. But so I mean, you're track champion. What is it about Texana? I mean, you apparently there is something there. That is your track. I mean, the other night you said, and I mean, I loved when you said it, that is your track. You, good chemistry right there, dude. That is your place.
Well, tell you the truth, I don't know if y'all have ever seen pictures of Lufkin Speedorama, but it favors it really close.
Okay.
And only difference is that it was a little shorter, and it was a D shape. The back straightaway made like a little sweep, like nice. A D, but it drives pretty similar. And my brother, he went to Edna. He was working down south, and he was racing there. He said, bro, you need to come down here and race because it's like home. Well, when that track shut down and closed and all that, I went down there, and very first time in my limited, and won it. And it just drives like that track did.
That's awesome, man. That is good stuff.
That's good stuff. All right, so now let's talk about the Clash. There for a while, you were running kind of in the top 5 all night long, waiting for the opportunity in front of you. Talk about the pace of that race. Was it somewhere that you wanted to just bide your time, or were you just trying to get to the front as fast as you could? Talk about the pace of that race for you as you ran throughout that 35-lap feature.
Well, I wanted to have a fast start, and we took off, and then the caution come out, and then we restarted with Dalton on the outside of me, and then he got the better of me, and I right off the bat, I knew I didn't have the car capable of winning. Just felt a little weird. It just something about it when I'd get on the brakes, and just it didn't have what it had. And I was like, well, it might come to me. So I was just pacing myself because I knew it was 35 laps. Mm-hmm. I was just hoping it would come around to me. And by the end of the race, it seemed like it was a little better. But, you know, everything changes with, you know, racing with other people and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I know there's a lot of chatter back and forth, and I mean, not just with you guys up in the front, just throughout the field. It was a big money race. It was, I mean, the intensity to get in that, when you get into a race like that, you're going to have guys leaning on each other. Was that, obviously you won, but was that too rough, or was that just a product of just everything that was going on with the competitiveness of all of you guys and, quite frankly, just wanting to win that race?
To me, I mean, I don't like it that rough, but for that amount of money, everybody's wanting to win. I mean, sometimes you got to do what you think's best in your opportunity to win. And I think that's the way everybody looked at it, is that was going to be the way to win or do better in their position. So they was doing what they had to do better.
That's the best way I've heard it explained right there.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it all. So what goes through your mind when you start seeing the body panels and stuff fly off in front of you, like when that 66 had that right front fender sticking up like a rooster tail? Well, what do you think? Do you think I'm not going to get close to that? Do you think I got to pass this dude so that it doesn't wreck my car? I mean, what goes through your mind when you start seeing body panels and stuff fly off right in front of you on a restart?
Stay away. It's a tire getter.
Yeah. That is the best way to explain it. So talk about that, all of it. And I know I asked you this the other night, but that dude wouldn't turn his car off. Whoever that was down there on the track, I'm like, dude, turn your car off. I'm trying to think here as I'm going to ask him. But as all of that is happening, so how were you thinking as those guys were leaning on each other? Faulkner and the 66 were leaning on each other. Are you thinking, okay, they're going to mess up here at some point, and I got to figure out how to stay out of it? Or how was all of that working in your mind?
Well, on the restarts, you know, when I'd have time to think and really get down deep in my soul on what to do and stuff like that, I was like, well, I know I'm pretty much a third place car. I was like, I can come home with something that ain't bad, but if something does happen, I just need to put myself in the right opportunity to pounce. Mm-hmm. And when they started leaning on each other pretty hard in 1 and 2, I tried to fill the hole when they moved up, but I got in the gas and it spun. I was like, crap. And then when they went down there in 3 and 4 and they kind of like locked up, I don't know, they just like stopped. Mm-hmm. And somehow I avoided it and got around them and got the lead. But it did and worked out in my favor. But I had pretty much already settled for third, but I wasn't going to just quit, you know.
That's awesome.
I like that. That's a good sound, but I wasn't going to settle for third. But,
that's awesome. That's great.
But so in terms of, so now that the season's over, right, and what's next for you? You going to try to run that big race down in Corpus? Are you done for the season? And if you're done for the season, what's the off-season plans? Rebuild it, reskin it? What's the plans for the off-season in 2021?
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a off-season for me. My car owner, he had the motor, and the people had been racing the car before me, so the motor had already had like 30-something nights or something on it.
Wow.
And then when I took over, I started racing it, and when all this pulling the heads, because they went into tech pretty hard. They checked a lot of stuff on it, so you got like antifreeze and the dirt and all that. So I was like, well, I don't want to mess this guy's stuff up, so let's just get with him and let's just start over fresh for next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seemed. I was standing down there for a little bit, and somebody said something about pulling heads. I'm like, oh man, that takes a lot of time and can mess up a lot of stuff. So the championship there at Texana, I came towards the end of the years when I started getting out there. Talk about that track. Talk about the class of competitors there, man. That's a pretty damn healthy class out there, and you got some good ones there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love the way Owen runs his shows. He's a great track promoter. He's out there for the drivers for sure. That's one of the reasons why I race down there, because he actually does for the drivers more than I see around,
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of fast people, especially young kids. I mean, 13, 14 years old, racing really good for their age. And it brings me back to my days of when I was doing it, It's like, I don't want that kid to outrun me, because I know how it felt when I outrun the grown people.
I heard that.
So, like the other night, I was running second when a caution come out, and Cameron Starry, 741 up there battling with me.
Yep.
He's gonna be one to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, when somebody told me how young that kid was, I was shocked. I think he was 14 or 15, right in there. And either way, whether it's 14 or 15, that was an impressive run that he had for a majority of the night. So so let's go back to talk about the race itself. So we talked about it with you earlier. You said the race got a little bit rough, rougher than you wanted. At what point do you find the need to want to retaliate, or do you just try to find a way to run your own race in something like that when it starts getting a little rough like that?
Well, I try to run my own race. The way I look at stuff is I race people like they race me.
Right.
And if they, show, they want to rub a little bit, then I'll rub a little bit. But if it gets too out of hand, the way I show it is give you a couple love taps and be like, hey, I didn't like that. Just settle this down now.
Yeah.
Or, it can sometimes get escalated. You never know.
And I think that
depends on the driver,
Yeah, that's a great answer, because we were talking about that before. I mean, it's one thing you're going to touch each other. I mean, when you're on the track, you're going to touch each other. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're racing for the lead or if you're getting lapped. I mean, you may touch each other, but when you get the deliberate stuff, that's kind of when it's a fine line of what's intentional versus what's unintentional.
Right, for sure. But I do want to point this out for sure. Even though it was some rough racing, and even got rough in between the top three cars, it shows you that we can still maneuver and race really hard, and how good of a drivers we are to be able to put our cars in them predicaments and still be able to pull it out, and do what we can do.
That's well said, man. That is perfect. Perfect.
So talk about the track itself. We've been talking about the race and how the kind of became a bottom feeder track there for a while, but it seems like that top groove started coming more and more in. Are you a bottom feeder? Do you just go where the track will let you go, or talk about your driving style? Which do you like better? You like bottom feeding? You like taking the high, wide, and handsome line? Which line works better for you?
Well, what I've learned, Colin, are you a catfish, or do you like it up top?
I like it up top. That's where I prefer it. But I race the track and race my car. I mean, to me, you got to be smart as a driver. I mean, you got to give what the track gives you. You got to give what the car gives you. And you got to combine them both. Like when I won a championship in 2018 in my limited there, we was all around the wall, balls to the wall, go in there, flat-footing it. I mean, it was hectic.
Yeah.
And then you get the track changes, and then you get your shocks. You know, I think a lot of it, the reason why everybody is running the bottom is because shock technology, it's the shortest way around the track.
Yep.
So if you can get it to hook, it's going to go around, you know, the bottom. So if you take that aspect out of it, just say if everybody was on the same shock, you know, you're going to have to try to find a different way around. It makes different for side-by-side racing, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that I appreciate about you guys that do this so well is that I watch you guys, and you race to the track, because the track changes. I mean, you may be really good in a heat race or a C main or whatever, and then by the time you get to the main event, it's different. But you have to adapt. I mean, I've seen so many guys where I always thought, because I'm newer to dirt, where that you had to throw it in there and slide around, but you don't always have to do that. There are times where you can drive this thing in there and keep it going straight, and that's just as fast.
Yes, sir, for sure. I've never been a fan of tacky tracks because it ain't really a driver track. Because dry slick, you got to have throttle control, steering control, brake control. It's a lot more variables, That's what I prefer. And like the other night, the track did change a lot. From the first race, I sucked it up in both corners. But the track started rubbering in more. And in 3 and 4, I got better. And all weekend, and even this year at Edna, every weekend, my money corner was 1 and 2.
Right.
But I didn't even have 1 and 2 all night, so I knew I was screwed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think I have a right rear shot going dead, because when I would go in the corner and get on the brakes, it would start like wheel hopping. Like you was on asphalt. So I kind of think, and the left rear was brand new, just from first race on it from Neil Kemp. And the rest of the shocks that I have on the car are 5 years old. So, and I had the left rear go out at Waco at the big race when I was doing good there, and I had the left rear go dead on me. So I got a new shock there, and I think my right rear went dead on me.
That's awesome.
Well, I bet you got 4,500 reasons to hit up Neil on his cell phone, and I bet he'd make you a good deal on 3 more shocks.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, for sure.
Hey, Colin, got to ask you quickly before we cut you loose, man. And thanks for taking the time tonight, by the way. So a newlywed. I mean, you guys. I remember we got to talk about that the time before down there on the racetrack. So marital bliss, is it done? It's done, isn't it?
Yes, sir. I can't thank her so much for being by my side.
Yeah.
I love her so much.
No, that always helps. I mean, it's definitely a good thing there when you have that great support system right there. I love to hear that, man. Congratulations, dude. I mean, I know the times that I've gotten to see you. I mean, there you are, and as I've learned more about you, you're a wheel man, dude, and that was one hell of a race Saturday night, dude. That was a joy to watch. Thank you and all those guys for just a great race.
Well, thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely, dude. Anytime. Love to talk to you again soon.
All right. Take care.
Take care, man. There he is, Colin Hodges. How you not like that guy? It's a good dude.
Yeah, he owned up to being in the moment. I know a lot of people were asking us about that, but he owned up to being in the moment, and you got to understand that too. Like he just won $4,500, and he just ran one hell of a competitive race, and so I can understand where the excitement and the emotion. Hell, I've got up and done a DX chop when I won a race one time incidentally. So
it's one of those situations there with everything that they were going through. I mean, to sit there and put yourself in that driver's seat for the whole 35 laps, but especially that last 15 laps. I mean, put yourself in his driver's suit, in that seat. I guarantee you, most of us would have been that fired up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would have probably done the same thing the other day as far as coming out and winning that race. I mean, that was a hell of a competitive race, and ended up having a lot of fans enjoyed it, and that's the best thing. Not only do you win, you end up having the best time when you get a chance to when you get a chance to race. So
absolutely. I mean, and like you said there, and we were talking about it before, but he echoed that. I mean, emotions run high, and I mean, quite frankly, I don't. I've done it. I've done this a long time, and I mean, I know he said what he said, but I mean, the way what we heard tonight. I mean, I never really saw a problem with any of it, to be honest with you. I mean, I've heard a hell of a lot worse. People have told me a hell of a lot worse on a microphone. So
absolutely, especially after jumping through a flaming school bus or a flaming RV.
Yeah, I mean that's just a fired up dude. That is. I mean, he put his stamp on his place. I mean, that is his place, and it's like we talk about. You know, we talk about football teams or basketball teams, whatever it is. I mean, if you want to be the top person, you gotta beat the top guy, and Colin Hodges is the top guy at Texana. It doesn't matter if it's not in a limited modified anymore, but right now in a factory stock. I mean, he's a guy. I mean, he's got it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got it figured out, and it's good to be on top of the mountain. And he had a lot of heavy hitters coming in trying to knock him off that mountain, and he stayed true and ended up defending, as he said, his home turf.
Yeah. I mean, I love what he said, that point where he said that what people need to think about is that we, as in all of them, that they could get out there. I mean, it would have been really easy with everything that was happening. And you have to know the emotions in those race cars was like top level. I mean, top shelf level intensity, what we saw right there. It would have been so easy for one of those guys to slip up and take the pack. And what would have happened there, Bobby, is you would have had, I mean, not only the 27, the 66, and the 28. It'd have been a pack, because we're focused on those three because they were the ones that were, you know, at the front of the pack. But as we started having all those cautions, had something gone wrong with those three, top 8 or 9 could have been wiped out really easy.
Yeah, as close as everybody was running, the top 8 or 9 could have been easily wiped out. But yeah, there was a little bit of contact and a little bit here and there. So all in all, I think that I think that it was the best race possible for what everybody was looking for: the fans, the management, and the promoters. So
yeah, absolutely, great night, and again, congratulations there to Colin Hodges and all of the factory stocks and Owen Pittman and the team there for just a great show over the weekend. But we're going to talk to another guy as we go back to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline. Another man that was out there, ultra competitive as he always is, multi-winning championships and everything that he is, adding a new badge to his credentials there. But we'll talk about that in just a second. But we're going to talk to Johnny Torres. JT, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Absolutely, man. Doing well. Glad to have you aboard, man. Your Edna weekend, thoughts on all of that?
As far as my racing, how that went, didn't go as good as I was hoping.
Right.
But it was a fun weekend. It was a good show. Got to talk to a lot of people now that I have that promoter's hat on now. So it was a successful weekend, I guess I could say.
No doubt.
Well, I mean, bringing the car home in one piece helps a whole lot at the end of the day. But talk about racing the different tracks. I mean, have you run a lot at Edna, or was that your first couple of trips down there?
I actually won a big show there last year. I think it paid $1,000 to win. I don't normally get out there, but I raced there about 3 times this year.
Yeah, that's a nice little track right there. I like that a lot. So Johnny, before we dig into the nuts and bolts of everything else, tell me, JT, we've seen a lot of chatter about got a little rough out there. Got a little bit rough. I know it's a big money race, but your thoughts on that? We talk about the fine line, intentional versus unintentional stuff's going to happen. Your thoughts on everything that we saw this weekend?
You want the filtered version or the unfiltered version?
You can lay it. Dude, we're not FCC regular. You lay it out however. Don't hurt your new job though. don't hurt your new job. Don't mention names.
No, I actually thought about the factory stock class. Is a little bit more reasonable than sport mods, and tires are a whole lot more reasonable. So I thought about running a factory stock only next year, because I drive a couple of people's cars here and there.
Yeah.
And Scott Ball, a sponsor of mine, bought a factory stock, and I raced it a few times and was pretty successful. Won a race in it. And I went to Edna. I took it to Edna for $1,000 to win. They had there a few months ago, and I just couldn't believe how disrespectful the drivers were. I did good. I went from I think 20th to 4th or so, but it's just a rolling demo derby, and they don't respect their equipment at all. I don't know what what the reason is, but I told myself, I just said I respect my car way too much to be racing this class, and to get tore up every week like that. And things happen in racing, we know that, but I don't know if it's the drivers that racing them aren't used to racing, minus the few that follow all the big shows. They're not used to racing for that kind of money or what it is, but it just, once the main starts, it's just like it's a free for all, and it's not at any certain track. It's solely on the drivers. It's everywhere those big paying races are.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Battle of Boot Hill last year, the 10,000 to win factory stock race, and was running pretty good. I was running in the top 5, and just got taken out. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of money spent that went into that just for careless driving, and that's the classes. It could be a really good class, but somehow I think they need to figure out how to clean that up.
Mm-hmm.
You think, Johnny, does it have anything to do with everybody trying to build a factory stock now? I mean, you got guys that are coming in from limited modifieds and big mods and stuff, trying to build factory stocks and racing these things, and you've got the guys that are moving up from bombers trying to get these factory stocks. Is it the nature of the beast? Did the class itself grow too big, and the drivers just haven't had a chance to adapt to the cars? I mean, what do you think? What do you think is causing all the craziness?
I do think you have a lot of drivers that are from totally different sides of racing and different, as far as financial, as far as talent. You have a lot of different racers in the class, so I think that has a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, do you think it? Us, Bobby and I both being from the asphalt side, we've seen classes that they get destroyed when you start having this stuff happen. I mean, because you get shit tore up all the time. I mean, do you think that this really is a time now where, whether it be tracks or sanctioning bodies, they need to figure out how to get this stuff under control?
It's tough. I think on the racers that'll kind of police itself. I don't think the class will die out. I think they'll kind of get, tired of tearing their stuff up every week, because the factory stock ain't cheap. It's not a cheap car. So
no.
I think these guys will kind of come to the realization, look, this is kind of dumb when I'm, driving like this every week. And I think it'll, limiteds used to be a lot worse about tearing stuff up, kind of the same way as factory stocks are now. I feel like factory stocks kind of replaced the limiteds as far as the way the racing went, the popularity of it, and the racing, the actual racing itself is turning a lot like they used to be. Yeah. So I think it'll police itself, and that'll iron out on its own.
Yeah.
Johnny, when we talked to you one time before, I remember what you were talking when you went to the big show at TMS and you went down in a corner and just spun out, and I can't remember if you got taken out or you spun out, and you just decided that you're just going to load your stuff up and not tear it up, and I think you made the right decision on that. At what point over a big show do you decide that? I mean, is that something that just comes just comes by race, or is it something that you kind of in your mind have a mindset of, well, if this happens and this happens, I'm done. I'm not tearing up any more stuff?
There's no really certain point. It just, when you think you can't, if you got to go and pass, say, I'm going to have to pass 20 cars to get in that main, to me, it's not worth it. I understand, it's all about having fun, but, there's a certain point to where I don't know what the certain point is. You kind of evaluate it and see the track conditions. If the track's real rough or rubbered up, hard on equipment, I think I'd be more likely to just say, you know what, I'm done. And unlike a lot of racers, I actually don't mind sitting back and just watching a race. So TMS, I still had a good time, even though I only raced half a lap, but it was still a fun weekend. I don't mind hanging out. Pretty much all my friends are race car, around racing, so they're all there. And it's like, hey, we'll still hang out and I'll watch y'all guys race, and it didn't ruin my weekend, sort of say.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your 2020, Johnny. It was 2020 is 2020. Lots of obstacles, lots of crazy stuff happening, but still a good year for you. And I mean, you managed to win championships, and the one there at South Texas got a little creative at the end, but looks like all in all a damn good year for you once again.
It was a lot of fun, and I felt like we had pretty good results. At one time, I think we went 4 or 5 months without finishing no worse than fourth.
Nice.
So, and that was at 3 different tracks. You know, that was we went to Edna, and they had 30 cars, and Corpus averages around 24 cars a night. And you know, to me, that was the highlight of my year, is going that long without without finishing no worse than fourth. And we had problems in the middle of all that, but luckily our problems, you know, we had some motor issues, but I actually blew up a motor and still won that one night, and got bailed out by Rick Polero. He helped me out to where, you know, we never skipped a beat. We kept on, you know, getting them finishes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So speaking of 2020 and the success, you know, at the early point of 2020, I think we had Steven Whitaker on, and it might have been when you were on, and we joked about you being the head man in charge down at I-37 and being the future promoter down there. And then we got this news the other day that came out that you're going to be director of Speedway operations for I-37 Speedway moving forward. What does that actually mean? Like, what all are you doing? Are you going to be the man that the main promoter stuff? Are you just going to put the racers in line? What all does that mean for the title?
I will be the main promoter.
Nice.
Anything that runs the racing show, I will take care of it. You know, the concession stand, souvenir stand, all that stuff will stay the same. But anything that changes the way the racing show is ran, I will be overseeing. And you know, I'm pretty excited. We did joke about it for about a year, you know, oh, you're going to run that next year. And I honestly, it never really came up till the last month or so. I just feel like I can make it better. You know, I want to try to make racing in South Texas better. I've already talked to me and Stevie talk almost every day. I've talked to Owen about just trying to make it better for all of us. I mean, I care a lot about South Texas racing, and so do they. They care a lot about South Texas racing. So I think we got a plan in the works to where we can make South Texas a really fun place to race in 2021.
And you know, that's one of the things I was talking about earlier, JT. I think when you got you 3 guys, I mean, it's 3 guys that have been in the trenches, and you have an idea what happens. I mean, people have no idea. People have no idea what all goes into this. But when you get 3 guys that know this, know the front end, know the back end, know the middle end, and really give a damn like you guys do. I mean, this little pyramid here, this could really be a huge deal in 2021.
I'm really excited, and not only as a promoter, but as a racer, because, you know, when I'm not running I-37, I'll be racing at one of those 2 tracks.
Sweet.
So just like Stevie will be racing at one of the other 2 tracks. So we want to make it better for all of us. And I mean, I really think we're headed the right direction. As far as making it better for everybody.
Agree.
So
it's not just about I-37. You know, it's about all of South Texas racing.
That's right. That is exactly right.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to understand the bigger picture when some people just want to think about their own track. When with all 3 successful is going to be the same thing. But how hard is it going to be for you to separate the racing from the promoter and the perspective side? I mean, it's got to be pretty tough to sit there but I mean, I think at the same time, if you go in and watch somebody do something stupid, you can go in and tell them, hey, look, you did something stupid. And I think that's what the racing experience about it. So, I mean, how hard is it going to be for you to separate the racer in you and the promoter in you?
I think I've been a kind of a bench promoter for a while now. So it's gone through my head a few times. And I think I mean, I don't know, obviously, because it's only, you know, I'm fresh at it, but I think it's be pretty easy to separate. And I think what helps me is I'm pretty much everybody's friend at the racetrack. Everybody knows me. Everybody knows I would talk something out with them. If we have a problem, we'll get it resolved. And I care about them. I care about the racer, and they know that. They know that I'm not just going to blow them off and, hey, thanks for your, $50 tonight, but take a hike. They know that I'm not going to want that, on my shoulders, and I'll take care of the racer, and they can come to me and resolve any issue they have. And I'm going to want a good show for the fans also. So I think it'll be good. I think I can separate that pretty easy. Like I said, I don't mind watching racing, so I'm going to want obviously a good show at the track I'm running. So I think it'd be easy to separate.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is not just straight out not to be able to race my local track, but I've raced here since I was 14 years old. And I think I've missed maybe 3 races. So that's going to be a little bit tough to see everybody else having fun, but it'll be all right.
And it's the first thing I thought when I saw the official word there was so it's funny the way things happen with racing families. I mean, Frank raced, then he did this kind of stuff. So it's got to be cool. You're kind of following right there in the mold with him. I mean, that's maybe a part that people don't think about, but I think that's pretty kick-ass right there.
Well, and I've been around the promoter side. I was a kid, but I was very much into racing even back then. I've been on the water truck. I've been on the maintainer when I was 14, 15 years old. So it's not 100% fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I think being a racer, I think you see it with Stevie's track. Being a racer, we know more as far as what racers want for track conditions, and what'll put on a good show. But yeah, I've been around it, and for some reason, my dad loved being a promoter. So I don't know if it's part of me has wanted to do it to follow in his footsteps, but I've kind of wanted to do it for a while now. So, and maybe it's just the challenge. I like new challenges, and I want to make a good thing better. So I want to make the track better than it's ever been.
Yep. So I have to ask you. I remember way back when my dad first started. Frank was a tech guy. You gonna dabble in that too? Or are you gonna call it good at promoting?
No, we'll have our own tech man, but I will
that's good.
oversee everything. And I feel like I have some racing knowledge, and where I've overheard of things that people try. So I think I'll be able to give some input to the tech man.
Sure.
And help his job, but no, I'm not actually going to be the tech man. I don't know if I'm that brave.
Yeah, no, don't want that job.
It's hard to do. So are you going to be are you race directing, or are you just doing the promoter stuff?
Both. I'm race directing and promoting.
Okay.
Nice.
Have fun with that. That's going to be. You have our blessings and our thanks right now. So
well, but
it'll be a learning curve.
Well, but I think part of that, Johnny, is like with Owen and with you guys. You mentioned you guys that are in the promoter role. If you are a race director and you've been on the track and you know these guys, I think that word is a little firmer and a little people are more receptive when you get somebody like yourself that knows what the hell's going on. That's sitting there calling the races.
Yeah, I think the racing part will help me to be a good race director as far as running a good show and seeing it from the driver's side also. I've been on both sides of it, so I think it'll help. And time will tell, but I think everybody knows that I don't like being terrible at anything. So we went to Edna last week and ran fifth, and the cars already torn apart because I'm like, well, we can't do that. That sucks. They had 40 something cars there, and everything. You're pretty good. I'm like, pretty good isn't enough. We're gonna do better. We're gonna try. It's not gonna be from lack of effort. We're gonna make sure everything's right, and it won't be. It won't be that's good enough. There can always be better.
It's awesome. Yep.
So are you guys keeping a lot of the same classes, all the same sanctions, at least as of right now?
As of right now, yes. I mean, it's everything is going to be discussed. But yeah, that's the plan as of right now.
Yeah. So your big challenges right now, obviously, we're talking about factory stocks and maybe getting a little rough, and I mean that's something that's going to iron itself out. So, because I think a big part of this is racers don't understand that they need to market themselves. You're going to promote the show. They need to market themselves and help draw people there. But how can the folks at 37 or folks around the state, how can they help you get into this job? And again, I know people always have great ideas, but what truly can help Johnny Torres as he takes over as operations director at I-37?
You're talking about before the season starts or after the season starts?
Yeah, before. Yeah, leading up to before we get rolling.
Really just input on whatever one wants. I know that's a double-edged sword because you can't always give everybody what they want, but I'm willing to listen to everybody's input, and most people already have my phone number, and I've already had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, this is where I think you can make things better. And I'm definitely, that's kind of like, I keep on going back to racing, but it's kind of like racing, hey, I seen your car was a little bit this, maybe you can try this,
Sure.
and I think that's okay. Well, this is what I've seen at the track, and I don't know how you can fix it, but there you go, take that input and make it and run with it,
Mm-hmm.
So as far as before the season, definitely everybody's input and everyone's open mind.
Right.
Different. No one likes change, so an open mind would be best, really.
Yeah.
After the season, of course, show up and give me a fair chance at to see how you like the track. If you're a racer, the track surface, track calls. And if you're a fan, how you like the show. And if you're a fan, you mean just as much as a racer. You can come say, hey, I didn't like this part of the show. I think it'd be better if, you did this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And as a racer, I'm definitely going to be willing to talk to everybody. And I think one of the big things about promoting now is a lot of people rely on Facebook, which is a good tool, but a lot of people don't pick up the phone as much as they used to.
Yep.
I'll be on the phone all week talking to people. I just think it makes a bigger impact when you have them on the other side of the phone than if you're typing something on Facebook. Get a little bit more personal with every driver than just here's all the info for all drivers. I've been doing this now for almost 20 years. It makes me sound really old, but
Damn.
The first half of my racing career, I had a lot of people, a lot of promoters, a lot of different tracks call and say, hey, I'd like to invite you to this race. I'd like to see you here. The last 10 years, that's been almost non-existent, as far as picking up the phone and calling and just talking to the drivers.
Yeah. And one thing that funny you mentioned that. I mean, I remember back in the day when my dad raced in San Antonio, we would get something in the mail. I mean, whether it be a handwritten thing, thanking him for going to race, or a flyer for the race we were going to the next time. And that, I mean, it's little things like that, kind of the old school stuff, and picking up the phone is one of them, that really goes a long way.
Yes, sir. I feel like I'm an old soul. So
yeah.
I remember all of that stuff, and I think that made a difference to get a little bit more personal, like I said. And I mean, to the point of where if you race anywhere in South Texas, I'm probably going to be calling you this all season.
Nice.
And just inviting you, right now I need to get, my biggest deal is getting a schedule out and working with other tracks where to make sure that's the right schedule, the right decision, so that's my big obstacle right now is getting a good schedule with plenty of dates and, not being on top of our close tracks.
Right.
So that's my obstacle right now. So that's my main objective, I guess you could say, is getting a nice schedule put out.
Yep.
Well, Johnny, speaking of old souls, it sounds like you got your first major fan going. Lawrence Miklinchek chimes in and says that he's pretty sure Johnny Torres will put me on the front row for a plate of potato salad. So it sounds like you're already working in the right direction there, bud.
Yes, and Lawrence is a good friend of mine. And he's, and speaking of fun things like that, I think that's more of what the races need is people to come out and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I go to South Texas Speedway, and when I leave there, even if we don't run good most of the times, I leave there I had fun. I went to go watch the go-kart races at Lawrence's track at L87, and I had fun. And it's like, well, it's not tension. There's not a lot of tension. I had a lot of fun at Edna this weekend, even though I didn't have the runs I wanted, but I left there, thinking, man, that was a fun weekend. And hopefully we can bring back a little bit of the, fun atmosphere, sort of say. I'm not saying it wasn't fun last year. I just want to take it to the next level, where people enjoy being at the races because they spend a lot of money to be there. Sometimes we all forget it needs to be fun.
And that, that you're exactly right, man. We do this because we love it and we're passionate about it. But so many times we leave the track and you're disappointed or pissed off or whatever that emotion may be, and we swear it off or mad, never going back, and we're there the next time anyway. But it that's really what needs to happen is we have to. I think that may be your best. Hell, that should be on your I-37 mission statement. I mean, this is supposed to be fun because we forget way too often.
Well, those are my own thoughts, but you think about it, and Kevin Rogers to me was the best promoter this year over in Texas. He promotes RPM. I think I've had him on the show before, and his main deal is have fun. Hashtag have fun. Because this is people forget that we do this for fun. I don't think I don't see any of us getting signed by Hendrick next year. So we need to enjoy it. And with all this, everything, the pandemic, everything going on, we don't know if this is going to be, our first race could be the last race of the year. So enjoy it while you can,
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny, do you think the pandemic has made people appreciate racing more? Because there was a long time we didn't think we were going to have a 2020, but it seems like you don't have as much drama at the end of these big year shows. It seems like everybody's really appreciating actually getting a chance to race now.
Until this past weekend.
I really think so. I know it made me appreciate racing a lot more. I get in the middle of the pandemic, we had a race at I-37. I was leading by a straightaway, and a lap car spun out in front of me, and I ended up having a flag, come back out and run a second. And, it was the pay-per-view race. It was pay-per-view only. Yeah. And, at the time I was pissed to get out of the car. I'm like, this is a lot better than staying home and iRacing,
Yeah.
So it made me appreciate racing a lot more, and I think it made a lot of other people because the car counts were up everywhere. The stand counts were up everywhere, even maybe they shouldn't have been, because of the pandemic.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it because that's I can't tell you how many times I thought that when I'd be out announcing at tracks and I'm like, damn, there's a lot of people here, but it's 80%, 75%.
Yeah, like there wasn't. We're supposed to be social distancing. It's more packed than it's ever been. But I was happy.
No, absolutely.
Now it's your turn to look at that. Yeah, you didn't get a chance to look at that this year. Now you get a chance. You're in charge of the social distancing in 2021.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try my best for it to be a packed house every night, and we'll be 6 inches away from each other, not 6 feet.
There you go. There you go. Hey, it's an outdoor venue, man. It is an outdoor venue.
Exactly.
And you got folks talking about here. You got to bring trophy girls back, and that's actually one of the things that I keep saying because I know so many times, Johnny. I go down to interview a winner, and I got a trophy on my hand. They're like, "What the hell?" Thanks. I drive my ass off, and I get this.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And that's part of fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's fun to look at, a trophy girl a lot of times, and
Sure.
if it makes most of us racers smile, that's a good thing,
It's supposed to be fun.
That's actually a really good idea.
That's right. It's supposed to be fun. It is supposed
so
to be
any
fun.
trophy girls, they could all inbox me, and I'll take your resume.
Brandy's gonna like too many of those things coming in the inbox.
Yeah, and she's listening. So
nice.
Sorry, baby, this is business related.
Yeah.
Business. Yeah, I mean it's all business.
It is.
Pictures included, but hey,
yeah,
it's
that's
business.
right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Good stuff, man. I got to tell you, dude, if they're going to make a change there, and I mean, like we said, we called it a long time ago. You're the man that's going to make it happen. You know how this stuff works, and by all means, let us know how to help, dude. Because like you said, you hit the nail on the head. We're all in this together. I don't care whether it's dirt, asphalt, motocross, whatever. In the state of Texas, we all need to work together because this is what we love.
Oh yeah, I mean with this. I firmly believe that racing, we're not going to be allowed to do it forever, as far as with everything going on. So it's like, well, we need to keep it alive as long as we can because there's so many competition things as far as for entertainment. So it's like, man, it is dying, but hopefully we can slow that process,
Yeah.
Yep. You know what I mean? As far as, when I was a kid, racing was 10 times as big as it is now.
Heck yeah.
And but I feel like these last couple of years though, it's actually grown. It's most big races you went to like this last weekend, it's packed. It's getting back to closer to where it used to be. So that's definitely a good thing. And I don't know if that's the pandemic or what, but it is coming back.
Yeah, definitely think so. I think we're going.
And I've heard the asphalt track is even getting a lot better and it's turned around also in Houston. So
yeah, it's
that's a good thing also.
Pretty healthy. But we all work together, and that's the main thing. So congratulations. I mean, just on everything. I mean, a great season. Congratulations on the new gig, and like I'm saying, man, let us know. I mean, we would love to. You got stuff you want to talk about? I mean, use us because a lot of people listen and watch us, and man, we would love to partner up and help you out, man. We're on your.
Oh yeah, I will be beating on every avenue I can get, and you're one of the biggest avenues, so I will definitely be beating on your door. Hey, get some info out about this, please. So you'll hear from me plenty.
Yes, sir. Please do. Congratulations, man. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon, buddy. Thanks for the time. I know you got a lot going on right now.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, Johnny.
There he is, JT, Johnny Torres. And seriously, I mean, we joked about it on here a lot, but that is a guy that you want promoting your place.
That's a good hire.
Absolutely.
We talk about him all the time. That's a good hire. I guess I don't get now that he's the boss man down there. I guess I don't get a chance to call him South Texas Sweet Tea no more.
Hell yeah, he had to put that on his flyers. Come race for South Texas Sweet Tea.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, he should. We got him all kinds of new phrases tonight. But I think they're in really, really good hands. And what I like about, like when he's talking about, one of the things that he mentioned there that's going to be so important is when he said track prep, because that's the one thing that you always hear that come up, which we were talking about what a great job that Owen did this weekend and does all the time, because every time I've been there, I talk like it's thousands of times, but every time that I've been there this year that I see what Owen does, it's been pretty much the same thing. And when you get these guys that know what the racers want and know the mentality of the racer and can talk to the racer, I think you get a lot of situations. This whole thing the other night at Texana with as the tensions that we saw and the emotions, and people were obviously mad. Had that been you or me promoting that and not Owen, that probably would have been a shit show.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably would have.
Yeah, but I think that is a great move by 37. And seriously, I mean, and let's take it out a little further. I mean, just talking in this area, and a great call there with the 105, because they have been extremely good. But you got Marianne. Let's factor in Marianne. You got Marianne at Cotton Bowl, and then you got Sweet Tea, Texas Sweet. What do you say?
South Texas
Sweet Tea, and then you got Owen, and then you got Stevie Whitaker. That's the heavyweights of the heavyweights right there, and I mean that in influence.
Yes. Yeah, see, you had to wait all show to try to upset someone.
Marianne be the one like, what? the guys probably don't care. The guys probably don't give a damn. But yeah, I throw that one out, and Marianne's gonna be like, I'll get a message tomorrow when I wake up, because she'll listen to this late. Marianne does her better. I was about to mess up again.
Just breathe. One flubber at a time.
Can you finish this? But
that's the heavy hitters in terms of promoting racetracks in South Texas.
That's exactly right.
Central and South Texas.
And seriously, I mean, throw the pavement in there. I mean, and then you got Gina up on the other side, and what all of these people have in mind or have in common is that they are racers, promoters, but at the same time they do know when you have to put the foot down, because they've been on that other side. They've been on that other side, and that would be the hardest part for me. That would be the hardest part for me, because I genuinely like most of these people.
Yeah, but you don't like to ruffle feathers either. And sometimes
That's
you
true.
have to ruffle feathers if you're a promoter.
That's exactly
because
right.
what's good for one person might not be good for the track.
Yeah.
But sometimes what's best for the track is not what's best for the driver.
Oh, great.
So
Mary Ann's listening. She's not pissed, I don't think.
Not yet.
yeah, not yet.
She literally may have just joined and listened to my comment. That might be why she's laughing.
We sign off, and that's when I'll get that text. But great program, and I got to tell you that I mean, talking to Colin Hodges there, and again, I know people were upset and with the way that the race ended. But if I'm in the grandstand sitting there watching this, that is a fantastic program, a fantastic end to that race with all of those heavy hitters there. And that's kind of one of those, Bobby, because I was reading in you talk to all of these racers where when they talk about and they go in and you have the local hero. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if you call Colin Hodges a local hero because he's from Lufkin, but he's been the guy that nobody can beat, or that has been, and he's the champion there. And when it's all said and done, you had the big hitters that came in, and the local hero walked off with the money.
Yeah, we saw it with Jared Fryer and Mike Mooney.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that hell of that race and hell of that finish up there earlier this season with the Cars Tour. So there is something to be said about the local heroes defending their turf, so to speak. And it was a damn good show. Owen and the gang down there put on a really entertaining show. There was a lot of people in the grandstands that were happy. But the one thing, there was about 10 laps to go in that factory stop race. Everybody was paying attention. Everybody was up, and they were watching that race. And that's the best thing you can ask for.
Yeah, they loved it. They loved it, and that's the most important thing. And congratulations, Owen. And you have to applaud him even more. He brought folks in that were going to make that show run efficiently. And I listened to that dude on the radio, and I'll be damned if they told me to get in line, I'd get in line, because they did not mess around. That was, again, a great hire right there. And that's what's important. I mean, these promoters are going to put people in place to do the jobs that need to be done. Promoter can't do it all. Sorry, Owen. Promoter cannot do it all. I love the comment, Owen, you're wearing too many hats. No shit. But
there's a shocker. Breaking news, right?
Good,
dun, dun.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. So sometimes, Owen, you wear too many hats, but he does it because he doesn't have people to do it, and that's the love of the sport. The love of the sport. He just keeps doing it, and that's the guys we need.
Yep, that's the ones we need. That's the ones that keep it going now, and the ones that keep going in the future.
Absolutely. So, before you want to bitch at the promoter, put it all in perspective, because it's a tough job. You try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just flipping the lights on.
You try it. Great program. Thank you, Colin Hodges. Thank you, Johnny Torres. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. We will continue flowing during the off season. Snowball's coming up.
The wonderful Derby.
Got lots to stuff.
I got to work on getting my Christmas decorations up. That's what we found out. Best time to put up Christmas decorations after Thanksgiving, before you leave for the Derby. So, guys, get the lights up after you chow down on some of that big yard bird on Thursday. That's right. Have a great Thanksgiving, folks. Be safe. Be nice to someone. You never know what they're going through. You're going to feel better as well afterwards. Enjoy those that you love. Eat a lot. Exercise a little bit. And be well. For Bobby, I'm Rodney. It's #Real Race Talk from Texas.